And welcome to this afternoon's edition of License to Steal. I'm Jeff DeForest, and everybody loves a great gambling story, and that's where we're going to start today. We'll have our handicappers coming your way. Going to feature the professor. He finally got off to Schneid last week after just an ugly, hideous losing streak, and he scored in a couple of big spots. We'll also feature Scotty M, who's been doing real well. He's been riding away with Indiana week after week, just making ticket after ticket, a casher. Also, Mike Jones going to join us. Should have some thoughts about the World Series, although I'm figuring matters of the occult are going to come into play there. We'll explain that. And Troy West, all the way out on the West Coast, who happens to have developed a huge following for this man, who joins us right now. One of my favorite people. I met him. He was starting to, he was trying to begin a fledgling horse racing streaming service. And somehow he got duped into thinking that I could help him there. And naturally, it never got off the ground. But nonetheless, we've been living vicariously through him with a bunch of wagers that he's made. And we've been talking about it. And it's a fascinating situation. One of the great gambling positions I've ever seen anybody in. We welcome to the show. And I thought we were going to have to go with an alias, Dylan. And also maybe a voice shredder and maybe some kind of silhouette of you. Because giving out gambling information is probably, it should be more protected and more discreetly distributed than medical information about a person. But you're okay with this. We welcome Dylan Rossi to the program, great friend of mine, and really just a fantastic gambler and a guy that's not afraid to send it in at any time and anywhere, any place. We welcome Dylan to the show. Dylan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Defoe.
You are doing great. And here's the story, people. I mean, and this is the kind of thing you can only dream about. So Dylan sends me a text sometime after the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, and it contains a ticket on there that it took me a while. I'm turning it this way and that way, trying to decipher it's from the Hard Rock. And it's a parlay ticket, a four-element parlay ticket, four components, and he's already cashed with the Panthers winning at 8.5 to 1, three of them. UConn to win the NCAA championship. He's got the Celtics who fire up and win the NBA championship. And then the Panthers win the Stanley Cup. And he shows me a ticket, and it's all tied to the Dodgers. And this had to be, sometime in June, Dylan. All tied to the Dodgers winning the World Series. $100, and on a four-component parlay, the payoff is $90,000 and change. And I'm looking at that in total admiration and thinking, I got to hedge. I got to do something. But tell us how this came about, because it sounds like, I mean, it wouldn't be a thing that you just arbitrarily walked into the sports book at the Hard Rock and said, hey, let me bet on all these championships. Was this some kind of ticket that they were soliciting people to play? How did this come about, Dylan?
No, not really. I like to play these tickets. I'm in Vegas a few times a year, and I like to dabble in some parlays, limited risk with, unlimited opportunities to make money. Thankfully, the Hard Rock went legit as far as sports gambling in Florida. And a lot of luck involved. I do follow, I follow all the Florida sports, the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Miami Heat, and the Marlins. But yeah, I felt, pretty comfortable putting these wagers on it. Again, low risk, high reward. And here we are today. It's
totally amazing from a number of different angles, like a zillion different angles on this. And like I said, a lot of people we've been talking about on a variety of shows are living vicariously through you and trying to figure out what you do. I mean, they're trying to coach you either up or down, or maybe talk you out of winning a lot of money. But then you showed me a subsequent ticket, which made it even more amazing, exponentially more so, when you have the Dodgers winning the World Series on a $50 ticket with those same three teams that are already home. Dodgers win the World Series. You then have, and they look like they're on fire right now, the Ravens to win the Super Bowl, $50 to win $480,000. I mean, do you have to wear a diaper just thinking about this? How are you handling this opportunity?
I'm trying to remain calm, cool, collective. As you know, I dabble in the horses quite frequently, and I've had some huge opportunities only to lose at the wire by a nose, things of that nature. But
sure.
Yeah, it's super exciting. The benefit of this is you get to a position where you're at the last leg. There's options. You can hedge. You can, bet some other sides and basically guarantee yourself some money, which is a nice position to be in. But I'm a diehard Dolphin fan, but certainly I have a heavy rooting interest in the Baltimore Ravens this year.
Well, you can't be upset that they've just rattled off 5 in a row and they're starting to look better and better every week. I mean, that has to be particularly encouraging with other teams that you would normally figure would be in the mix and maybe even invincible in some spots. not looking as sharp as they possibly could, including Kansas City with Mahomes. The 49ers look to be dead in the water. Other teams are suspect, and right now you're probably riding the hot team. But we have to get through this Dodger series first. So how do you approach this? I mean, the Shakespearean question. I know you're a student of literature and well versed and a Renaissance man, and the question Shakespeare was asking is to hedge or not to hedge. So you have opportunities now where the casino offers you an early buyout. Is that worth looking into on this particular ticket? Because it seemed to me, from what you indicated with your text, that maybe they had even lowered the offer now that the Dodgers are in the World Series. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's. I thought after the Dodgers beat the Mets, or prior to that series, the cash out option was around 29,000, and after the Dodgers beat the Mets, it only increased to about 33,000. So I actually thought it was going to be somewhere in the $40,000 neighborhood, which would have been somewhat exciting to potentially cash out. But unfortunately, we're around that number still. So I'm still weighing out my options. It's not an easy decision. There's definitely a lot of ways I can go on this. I think the smart thing to do would be to bet the Yanks, like around maybe $42,000 on the Yankees, and basically guarantee myself 50,000. I think that would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah, you're getting plus 120 on the Yankees in the series, so you guarantee yourself 50 grand. Some people would say, well, maybe you got to go for it. A lot of people don't like the whole concept of hedging, but I think you have to come out of this with a profit.
Yeah,
And then the other ticket is of substantial value now, too. So
exactly.
is there any temptation there? A lot of people I've talked to have said, well, here's what your buddy should do. Everybody's got advice for you. And they say, well, you ought to take whatever, hedge off, maybe get half the money. Like you said, collect 50 grand on this and then hope that the other ticket just stays alive for the 480,000. I know you've been involved in pick sixes and handicapping contests and a lot of different positions where you can make a lot of money by betting, not necessarily a little, but by a small investment percentage wise compared to the payoff. How tempting is it? I mean, it's got to be a thrill to even think about letting this ride through the World Series for the chance to win a $500,000 on a bet on a $50 bet.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm blessed to have these other tickets as let's call it backup, so to speak. Even though one of the tickets is valued at potentially, if the Ravens win, almost a $500,000. So, if I didn't have those tickets, it would be an easier decision on this ticket just to the Dodgers. But the good thing is I do have a couple other tickets to the Dodgers and to the Ravens and a few other teams. But it's definitely made my decision a lot more difficult.
All right, and once again, what drove you to make this play on the championships? And was that a special offer in terms of a parlay?
No, there's, as we both know, there's so much luck involved, in whether it's sports betting or horse racing, and I've been through hundreds of tickets like this over the years and haven't cashed one, but I felt pretty good. Last year at this time, it was the middle of hockey season, and right before the NCAA championship and and then the NBA. So I like these teams and I felt good about it. But again, so much has to happen. 4 or 5 team parlays. Luck has to be. You have to be in that little small window where luck is helping you. So there was some handicapping involved. I'm not going to tell you I just picked lottery numbers and came up with this. I did a little bit of studying and here we are today. But definitely a lot of luck involved. I would say about 95% luck.
And logical teams too. It isn't like any of these teams were far fetched,
Oh,
where you're saying, "Hey, let me bet the Colorado Rockies to win the World Series," and they were 1,000 to 1 for this kind of substantial payoff. It's great. All right, so how many people have come out of the woodwork from your distant past and said, "You know what, Dylan, when you weren't doing so well, I did you a favor. I don't know if you remember this." And they're looking for some kind of piece of the action here, and or have you had anybody say, "I told you the Panthers are going to win. You weren't going to bet them." Did you get any of these guys? Are they starting to hover around you now that you're close to possibly making this giant score?
No, I've been fortunate to be able to pay back all of my debts. But the unique thing is, I like to have other people involved in a ticket like this. So if I do hit, I'm going to help other people or donate this to horse racing aftercare, whatever it might be. So it's not just me. I have a lot of people that support me, and And if we end up making a score on these tickets, I'm definitely going to give back to charity and to a few friends and other individuals on our X Twitter app that are rewarding of this of getting a little piece of the action here.
And you're gathering steam. It's not just with our inside guys that have now taken up the story and are gathering the momentum just like you are, getting ready for the World Series. Did the Hard Rock not put this ticket up on one of their social media sites for people to see that it is possible to make this kind of score? And if so, how did that affect you? Did they use your name? How did that work?
Yeah, I don't know the legalities of that, of getting permission, but they did post on TikTok. They didn't obviously use my name or at me, anything along those lines. It would have been nice for someone to contact me, but I had this ticket on Twitter 6 7 months ago. I posted this, so yeah, I'm pretty cool about it. But it'd be nice to get tagged. But yeah, it's kind of cool how it's built up some traction, organically, we'll say. But I think I posted this ticket 6 or 7 months ago, which was cool.
All right, and you're a man of means. I know this. You do very well in your business. You're very successful. You're always working, coming up with stuff, and no matter what, you're one of these guys that just keeps working and always has new ideas and ways to make money. But is there any bigger thrill than just winning a pile of money gambling? It doesn't matter what amount it is in terms of relation to how much money you have ultimately. I mean, if I'm in your shoes right now, which I wish I was, I'm at the Hard Rock. I'm lined up there waiting for the guy to come back from break and hand me like 50, 60,000. But how does that impact you from a psychological standpoint? I mean, I always felt like if you won money gambling, it was way better than any money that you could ever earn.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. There's no better feeling, and whether it's few thousand, 10,000, 100,000, and if you own a horse or you have partners in a horse and having that horse win as well, it's a very similar feeling. But yeah, you can't beat it. You can't beat this feeling, even to be in this position, because I already can basically hedge and guarantee myself X amount of dollars, which is really a nice position to be in.
I can't admire you any more than I do, Dylan. And I thought I already had the ultimate admiration for you as a human being because you're a really good guy on top of everything else. But to be in this spot, it's a rarity. It's like having an all ticket in the final race of a pick six at the Breeders' Cup. Which I don't know. Are you heading out there? Or are you on your way to Del Mar?
This is the first year I haven't been in a couple of years. I got to lay low. Things around the house and with family and things of that nature. So. I'll be probably playing a tournament again from home, but I'm looking forward to next weekend. Have you guys discussed that at all on your show, the Breeders' Cup?
Not yet. We're going to get heavily into it next week, and usually we feature Kate and Bradar, and we'll try to bring her on this show and see if we can't give out a couple of horses. She's an outstanding handicapper, of course, from FanDuel TV, which now owns everything. It's only a matter of time before they buy CBS, I think, and that's all coming. That's not because of guys like you that are winning and taking these guys down for 90,000 on 100. How much overall did you invest? Did you have other combinations? You mentioned something about that a few minutes ago that there are other combos. I mean, how much total did you invest in this whole proposition?
I had about 7 different tickets, which I posted on Twitter, which is now X. Maybe $600 total on all my different tickets.
Well, what a sweet position to be in, my friend. Unbelievable.
What would you do for my position?
You know me, I would have hedged a long time ago. I probably would think, and I don't know what your thought is. I mean, Yankees, Dodgers, how would you assess the matchup if you had no betting interest in it?
It's probably 2 of the best lineups in baseball, top to bottom. You got, 3 or 4 of the top 10 baseball players in the league between both teams. Pitching is a little suspect, right? The Dodgers use their bullpen quite a bit due to injuries. I would say they're 2 evenly matched teams, to be quite honest with you. If I was going to bet the series, I'd probably go game to game, to be quite honest with you. But I see 2 evenly matched teams. I couldn't really separate the 2.
No temptation to get out there to Chavez Ravine and start rooting the boys on a little bit. Maybe sitting there with Steve Garvey and a Penguin Ron Say and having a couple of cocktails. Because there is an occult factor. I think the ultimate intangible that happened, and it's in your favor. And I'm a big believer in this. I know a lot of people think I'm nuts, but Fernando Valenzuela checking out, which I was lucky to be a part covering Fernando Mania in 1981. And he checks out right before the series when the Dodgers have no starting pitching. Is that not an omen of some sort? I mean, I know you're a deeply religious person. I mean, do you buy into matters of the occult in these situations?
Listen, you never know with series like this. Like as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of luck involved, and um, I may go out for Game 3 depending upon if the Dodgers are either tied at 1 or up 2-0. I'm going to go up to New York for Game 3.
Sounds good, man. Well, take me with you. I'll have a Kanish ready, and we'll route the Dodgers home for you for the 90 grand for $100 ticket. Dylan, a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I wasn't sure what level of coverage you wanted on this, and whether or not you wanted to be identified with it, because you know that the relatives are going to be coming out of the woodwork now. But when
I'm
they find
prepared.
out you're sitting on a score like this, hey, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck. And I'm sure Toby and the people at Bleacher Brothers will be rooting you in with the Dodgers, and a fantastic story. And then that would set up a situation to maybe win $500,000 on a $50 bet. This is the stuff of which legends are made, my friend. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us.
Thanks, Tifo. Always,
All right.
always a pleasure getting with you. Appreciate it.
Dylan Rossi, man. I mean, he's at the DMV of the license to steal. Thank you so much for being with us. All right, we're going to get into some college football here. The professor about to join us here on License to Steal. We love the professor, and after getting touched up a little bit, he was looking a little like Jerry Quarry after the Ali fight, but
Kind of
uh,
still am.
not bad though. I mean, I love the fact you came back with a Mike Gundy team, Oklahoma State covering for you
Oh,
on a Friday night last week, and then
should
and
have
the
had
money
the money
line. That
line
was a
win
tough
though.
beat. That was
Yeah,
a
it
tough
was.
beat, huh?
That was a very tough one. Uh, Taking the lead by 4 with what, a minute 13, no timeouts. They go right down the field and score. I think there still was 10 seconds on the board. So yeah, money line wise, that was a tough one. But honestly, I think it tells you just how on the correct side we were. Quarterback who was killing BYU with his legs goes out in the second quarter. Ollie Gordon gets banged up in the second half, and Oklahoma State still, easily covered and probably won the game straight up.
Yeah, it's it was a good score there. It broke the streak. I think you were at 7 or 8 in a row that we had given out on the air. I mean, you're still cashing other tickets, and
Yeah, I think it
so
was
it's not a total disaster. And then Georgia, that was a good play. What did you? I mean, what's the overall impact of that game as Georgia now moves to number
I mean,
2? Oregon becomes number 1.
it just I think just increases the chaos level in the SEC. And interestingly, as we enter the first year of the 12-team playoffs, you're entirely possibly going to see like 6 SEC teams with very similar resumes, and I'm sure they'll lobby for all those spots, which I doubt they get. I doubt they get as many as 6, 4, or 5. 4 is likely, 5 is possible. So, what's it going to end up with? Probably a call to expand the playoff once again.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be talk about that, I would think, as long as the fabulous Moolah is involved. I would imagine you were not involved in this game, but I love it because I always love bridge jumper situations where I believe you had to lay $4,550 to win 100 last night on Liberty. And
Oh
we
boy.
know Patrick Henry was famous for saying, and I always thought this was Nathan Hale for some reason. I was way off on this. I thought they put the noose around Hale's neck, and this scumbag trader said, "Give me liberty or give me death," as he was spitting in
But,
the
this
face.
is one of those situations where if you'd asked me like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said nobody lost any money because nobody's such a putz that they lay minus 4,500 on the money line.
Yeah,
And anybody who's stupid enough to do that doesn't have $4,500 to play with anyway. um, but these wild money line parlays have now become incredibly popular where people will want to tie together
yeah.
10, 12, 20 teams in a row that are all huge money line favorites. And I wouldn't be surprised if actually you saw a lot of money line tickets, money line parlay tickets go down on that game as Liberty goes down to previously beaten, not unbeaten, but beaten Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State was 0-6, so Liberty had won 17 in a row coming in. They were 5-0 so far this year, and 25.5-point favorites.
Couldn't happen to a nicer school, right?
I don't know. You know, I always throw that out there as kind of a joke when people ask me about sleepers in the NCAA tournament, and I'll throw out Liberty, thinking, "Oh, okay." And then you look, and they have like a decent resume for that level of play, but
No,
they're
they've become a very good football program.
weren't they a playoff consideration
Getting
team prior to this
polished,
loss?
founded by Jerry Falwell isn't something
Yeah.
I'm going to be a fan of.
He's got to be rolling over in his grave, right? I mean, thinking about what happened there, right? He probably laid the 25 in a hook. But anyway, that was a big shocker. I don't know if there were any bridge jumpers on that, but like you said, now with everybody betting these money line parlays that include 20 elements, that probably looked like an absolute dead gimme. And there you are. If they
Agreed.
gave you liberty, they gave you death last night on your big parlay. All right, we're going to get into some college football this week. There's a game of intrigue for me tonight.
Okay.
And I know you're a big fan. You scored with Syracuse here on the show against UNLV a couple of weeks ago. They're 5-1 on the season. Their only loss is an ugly one. They lost, I believe, at home to Stanford. Stanford, not a very good team. They take on Pittsburgh tonight. I'm not sure if this is one of your plays, but
It is not.
Pittsburgh laying 5.5 against Syracuse. Does Syracuse have enough in the passing game to maybe overcome this and even be a slight play on the fabled money line?
I would probably lean towards no. Pittsburgh's been a very solid football team, both sides of the ball. Syracuse, of course, has they do pass the ball very well. They do have more than occasional struggles in the rushing game, and the defense is sort of suspect. Uh, I would look for a high scoring matchup here, showing a total of 62.5. So that's reflected in the total. I think you're looking for kind of a shootout kind of game. So, with the points, I'd say, it's kind of a coin flip. Maybe take Cuse. Money line, no, I would not be inclined to look at the money line on this one. I would expect Pittsburgh somewhere around a score.
All right, let's dive into your picks for this week and see if we can't make some money for the people. After all, this is License to Steal. The Professor, college football, the platform is all yours, my friend.
Well, the one place we've been pretty consistently good all year long, time slot wise, is Friday night. So we're going right back to it with Boise State laying 3.5 against a team we've already cashed against early in the year, UNLV. And we're going right back against UNLV. Although these two teams seem to have very similar resumes, Boise State's is against much better competition than UNLV has faced so far this season. Only laying 3.5. I believe Boise State is the fifth or sixth best rushing team in the nation, and that is all Alvin Genti, who I think probably will have in a sort of a highlight spot for him. They don't make national television that much. CBS Sports Network. I look for him to continue to try to build his Heisman reel, which he has done week after week at a clip of better than 200 yards a game. I think you're looking at exactly that repeat. I don't think UNLV will get any natural stops in this game. They may get some towards the end of the game if the score gets ugly, but I do not expect him to get any native stops against this Boise State offense, which has a little more balance. It's not all Genti. They do throw the ball around pretty well when teams stack the box. I expect a shootout. I expect Boise to probably run away a little bit, couple scores, but at 3.5, I think they're an easy play here. Don't buy really into this UNLV. I think UNLV a little bit of smoke and mirrors and a friendly schedule. They're not as efficient. For some reason, I think it's mostly probably play calling. They haven't been as good offensively since they lost the quarterback in that controversial fashion a few weeks. Even though the quarterback himself, his passing numbers were awful. Williams has actually improved with the passing numbers, but the offense itself really hasn't been efficient. Again, I think if you watch UNLV with all those formations, with all that motion like to run, it's just gotten less efficient with the backup quarterback. It's also worth noting Williams' passing numbers have decreased a little bit each week, particularly in terms of completion percentage and efficiency. So I think Boise State has a notable advantage in this one. Give us the Broncos minus 3.5 to kick off the week on a Friday night.
All right, we get in action on Friday night, tomorrow night. Boise State laying 3.5 against UNLV. What else do you have for us on the college slate, Professor?
Well, we're going to ping pong, and a team that beat us in an ugly fashion last week really showed me a lot. And that's the Indiana Hoosiers, who just beat the holy hell out of Nebraska. We went into that game thinking there was no way Indiana's offensive line would be able to handle the Cornhuskers' defensive line. Got exactly the opposite. They not only handled them, they manhandled them. And we may have last week ignored the time zone factor a little bit because Nebraska's a Midwest team, not a West Coast team. Very much in play here, as everybody knows the history of teams from the Pacific time zone traveling to the East Coast for noon kickoffs. It's exactly what we have here, as Indiana laying 6.5 to the Washington Huskies. I look for Indiana. Fox's game day will be there to continue to build on this magical run at least until they get into Ohio State a couple of weeks. But I am not impressed with Washington, particularly the offensive side of the football. They have huge trouble moving the ball with any efficiency. They're more of a big play creation team. I don't think they'll be able to consistently do that against an Indiana offense that has been the absolute mark of consistency. So give us Indiana time zone advantage, laying the 6.5 here.
I can feel Scotty M smiling in the background here because
Get that money back they took from us last week. I grossly underestimated them last week, but will not make that mistake again.
complete bludgeoning. No, it was ugly. We were as dead wrong on that. A couple of us, anyway. Is Scotty M had him. He stuck with him. He's riding the crest of the wave with the Hoosiers. But as wrong as I was about the Knicks putting up a battle against the Celtics in the season opener the other night, thinking the Celtics were going to be just dead meat from the chicken circuit all season, off season long, and they were wheeling out the casket of Red Auerbach and all this stuff in the ceremony. Figured a hungry Knicks team was going to go in there and cover the 6 points. Ended up getting blasted, and that's the way it goes sometimes. You're dead wrong. So you're reversing fields here, going with Indiana, laying 6.5 this week. All right. Anything else that strikes you?
Yeah, our next one, we're going to actually do the opposite and stick with a team we've cashed on 2 or 3 times this year, and that is the Illinois Fighting Illini, getting 21 and a hook from the Oregon Ducks. This is an absolute mystery line to me. Illinois has been slightly disrespected in the point spread throughout the year, including getting points from Michigan last week, which I thought was a total head scratcher about why they would be getting points in that situation. This one, the numbers just baffling to me. At above 3 touchdowns, 21 and a half. I have no idea why you'd lay that kind of point with the Illini. Yes, Oregon covered last week, but they covered against a Purdue who everybody's covered against. And frankly, we're a little fortunate to actually get that cover on a huge spread. I think Oregon's going to win the game. I'm not suggesting any taste on the money line, but this number is way too big against a highly competitive Illinois team that's good at controlling the ball and good at forcing teams to play in their pace. Don't think Illinois will win. Do think they'll keep it within a couple of scores. The Illini plus the 21.5. People are going to talk about injuries in this one, and that's why the line is where it is. Yes, Illinois' leading rusher is out, but it's more of a running back by committee system under Bielema, always has been really historic if you look at him. And then Oregon's actually missing their tight end, who's a huge playmaker in their offense, and will be missing Holden, probably missing Holden, who's one of their best wide receivers. So I think the injury situation is actually kind of like a draw at best here. Again, I look for Illinois to keep this game pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 1-score game headed into the fourth quarter. I think the number's way too big here. Illini plus 21.5.
All right. Anything else on the slate for the people here looking to steal some money this weekend?
Yeah, our last one, and it's the night game, and we're just going to continue with the theme, which is Michigan shouldn't be laying points to anybody, and they're laying 5 to Michigan State in this spot. Their offense is not good enough to justify. I wouldn't lay any. I don't know if I'd take them at pick 'em. I would personally. I don't think I'd take them at pick 'em in this particular matchup because Michigan State's defense, as they showed against Iowa last week, because supposedly Iowa has an offense now. Well, turns out last week once again they didn't. And Michigan State, Jonathan Smith is an underdog, has been an absolute killer. He leaves the chalk eaters lying in the aisles over and over again. Has throughout his entire run at Oregon State and now into Michigan. I think he'll do it again here. If you're looking for a chance at the money line, this is the one I would be pointed at. Michigan State has a much better balanced offense here. Childs will drive you crazy with some bad decisions, but he will also make some big plays at the quarterback spot, something Michigan does not have. They do not have a playmaker at all in the passing game. Again, bit of a head scratcher to me. I guess on home field you could argue for Michigan to be laying 1 or 2. To be laying 5 against a team that's arguably right there with them on defense and has a much more battle-tested offense and balanced offense, absolutely baffling to me. Give me Sparty plus the 5.
All right. Best of luck with everything, Professor. And thanks as always. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on a couple of other adventures that we're on together. And hoping that all of these teams score. Thanks so much for being with us today on the show.
You have a great one, Defoe.
The Professor, ladies and gentlemen. All right, he shook off a little bit of a slump there from a couple of weeks ago. Scored big with Oklahoma State. Almost had it on the money line. Then came back. He pounded Georgia, and that was a money line play. And also with the points. They were getting 5 and a hook in that big matchup against Texas. Sort of turned things a little bit upside down in terms of the rankings, with Oregon now number one. Here's a number one guy, and I always love talking to this gentleman here, and we welcome him to License to Steal. The great, the handsome one himself, Mr. Scotty M, joins us on the show. Scotty, how are you?
What's going on, Defo? How you doing on this lovely Thursday?
Well, I'm thinking, man, like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. We had my friend Dylan Rossi on, who didn't mind being identified. I thought gambling records should be protected like top secret, government documents. I mean, they shouldn't be just thrown around in the men's room there at Mar-a-Lago. And I didn't know if he wanted to release the fact that he had these live tickets going to the Dodgers and then subsequently to the Ravens to win championships. But if the Dodgers win the series, he wins 90,000. He said he's tempted to hedge off and bet 40 on the Yankees in the series, and they're plus 120, so he picks up 50. And either way, then he wins 50,000. I don't know. What would you do in that spot, to hedge or not to hedge?
Definitely hedge. Not even
Yeah.
a question. Not even a question in my mind. I don't care how much I love the team, how much I love the situation. If I'm in that final slot that I can make sure money and a nice profit, no question about it. I'm hedging.
All right, I know you like a couple of games, both in the colleges and the pros this week. So let's get to the analysis from Scotty M, and we'll give you a location where you can get his information. And if you want to become a subscriber to any of the fine things that he does in terms of advising people on gambling, been doing this for a long, long time, even though he looks very young. Where are we going this week on the college slate?
I'm going right into the meat potatoes game. My best bet on the board again in the SEC conference, which has been the dominating conference in all of college football this year. Great matchup: LSU versus Texas A&M, 12th man, College Station, whatever you want to call it. Both these teams coming in on 6-game winning streaks right now, playing excellent. But I love LSU in this game. There's some factors in this game that point me in the direction. When I look at a number on a game, it hits me like a brick wall. This one hit me like that brick wall when I first woke up on late Sunday and Monday morning. This was the one that hit me. I think LSU is a big live dog in this game. Not that they're getting a lot of points, but I just think they're going to continue their winning ways. They seem to be doing the things right now that are finding ways for them to win games. Texas A&M playing really well right now. But I think they're running into a buzzsaw with LSU. And I take this line to +3 or 3.5. I wouldn't even think twice. Never leave a game on a 2.5, especially a marquee game that you know it's a tight number in the line setters, adjustments, and thoughts. But I like LSU as a live dog, +3, 3.5 to get the job done. Boom.
All right, sounds good. Kicking it off with LSU in the big matchup against Texas A&M. I know you also have been rolling with SMU so far this year.
Love them too. I'm just finding teams. I got to be honest with you, Defoe. I'm sticking with teams that are playing well. I'm not looking for teams that are going to make changes and try to play well. I'm going to find the teams that are doing well, finding ways to score, finding ways to stop other opponents. And this is the perfect scenario. This team has been doing that. They've won their last 4 in a row. They're undefeated on the road. Yeah, Duke's a good team, but they're not going to play to the level of a team like SMU that's averaging close to 41 points a game. Duke's averaging about 25 points a game. I just think they have the edge on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. And I like SMU. They're making the line very respectable to put them 11, 11.5 on the road. It shows something right there. They're looking to trap you and say, "Oh man, let's take Duke at home. They're 6-1. They're getting 11. I mean, how could you let it go? You can let it go in a game like this. Believe me, we like the not the dog, the favorite, laying the 11. I bring it down to even 10, 10.5. I mean, I'm a numbers guy. I'm looking for the value of the line. I bring this game.
I kind of lost Scotty M there for a split second. He was on a roll talking about SMU and how he is more than willing to lay double-digit points. There you are, Scotty M.
Sorry about that. I take this game down to about 10, 10.5, and I jump all over SMU. I love this play.
All right, 2 games, and you're warmly embracing both of them so far. LSU getting 2.5, and then SMU laying a bunch of points. I know, and this the double dot theory, where you get affirmation, and that's part of what we're doing here with License to Steal. You have your own opinion, obviously. You have to go out there and make your wagers based on what you think and feel. But it's always good to get affirmation from people that you have respect for or that have had success doing this. And it looks like we're going to be 2 for 2 with your Indiana Hoosiers.
I love him again this week, Defo. I heard the professor jumped on the bandwagon. Smart man, because when your team's scoring 49 points a game and just blowing out their opponents and not giving their opponents a chance, I mean, it's like they just, like a beehive. They jump right on you. They get out to these leads. They're finding ways to score. They're executing. Their defense is showing up. I don't see much of this Washington team, to be honest. I don't even know how this line is, what the line is. If they were 6.5 against Nebraska and they just crushed them, I mean, Washington's no different to me than Nebraska, to be honest with you. Maybe even Nebraska, in the line setter's eyes, is even more a worthy opponent. Washington, yeah, they made it to the national championship game last year. Last year's last year. This is this year. They're not playing well. 0-2 on the road, 4-3 record, not putting up points, going against a team that's doing totally the opposite, shutting everyone down, putting up a lot of points. You got a 6.5 spread. They're 7-0. They're finding ways to win. Hey, let them beat me. You know what? I'm going to ride them. I'm going to take that team because, in my eyes, the number on this game is wrong. I think they're at least a 2-touchdown favorite or better on this game. And I'm going to stick with the Indiana, who's gotten me to the dance 3 times already this year. I've used them, and I've got paid on them. And I'm going to ride them out for the 4th time, and I think they're going to get the job done Saturday.
All right, sounds good. We got 3 college games from Scotty M. One he's in agreement with the professor on with Indiana. Professor doing an about face on that team after getting shellacked last week and somewhat embarrassed by the final result. And now everybody's in accord there, Scotty M. They all love Indiana. This week, I know you had a little taste going on a couple of games in the pros. Wanted to touch on those real quick,
I got
if you can.
One game I'm really feeling good about, and one I feel is a good, strong opinion. I'm going to jump on Green Bay. I'm going to ride with Mr. Love. I think this is the perfect scenario for him to have a bust-out game. I'm looking for him to have that 4-touchdown, 350, 400-yard game. I think this is the perfect scenario for them. Hey, Jacksonville won. They were over, in London for a couple of weeks. Granted, they lost the first game, come back and beat Patriots. That's no accomplishment at this point in time, beating the Patriots. Unfortunately, best team, over 20 years is now probably one of the worst teams, unfortunately. But you lost all the wheels to the bus there, so you expect the bus to flip over and go into the ditch. And that's what New England's kind of doing right now, going into the ditch. But I think that this game is a perfect scenario for Green Bay to get the job done. They've won their last 4 in a row. I think it's time for Jordan Love to put up some magical numbers. I think Trevor Lawrence obviously is going to want to try to match up with him. I don't see how he's going to match up with him. I'll lay the 4 on this game with Green Bay on the road. I think they're much better. I see them getting the job done. And this is the type of game where the sharp money guys usually jump in early. And they kind of made this line. I mean, Jacksonville could have been, it could have been a 3.5, but they made this game a solid 4.5. I think there's a purpose behind that. I think the favorite gets the job done with Green Bay. They win this game by at least 7 or more.
All right, and you had one total you were looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at the total. I think this is going to be one of those type of mirror image type of games. Philadelphia, Cincinnati. They got the total. When I jumped on it earlier in the week, it was 47 and went to 47.5. As I'm talking to you right this second, and I'm looking at the numbers on the screen, it's already up to 48, 48.5. I think this game's going to be a high-scoring game. I think both these teams, even though Cincinnati's turned around on the defense the first 5 games, I mean, you, me, and 7 of our best or 8 of our best friends could have ran through that team all day long. But they closed down that defense. It got a little tighter recently. But I think this game's going to be a passing type of game. Joe Burrow has been phenomenal. 15 touchdowns or 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions all year, 110 passer rating. I mean, the guy's doing what he does best. And I think that this game, both these quarterbacks, Hurts is going to come into this knowing they're going to have to throw and score, even though they have Barkley and so forth and other weapons. But I like this game to go over the number. I think if you can get this line to 47, keep it around 47, even if you have to buy it down a point, go over the 47. I see fireworks in this game, see a lot of points.
All right, sounds good. Where can people find all of your stuff, Scotty M?
All right, Defo, here we go. You can check me all out, guys, on TikTok each and every day. We got those free plays up all the time, trying to give you that winning edge. Hey, we don't win them all, we try our best. That's the bottom line. And we can handle, all the comments, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Or you can check me out on TikTok. My official page is SMPicks, Picks. Check it all out. Free plays every day. Special offers for serious players. Reach out if you're looking to win.
All right. Sounds great. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again real soon.
All right, Tifo. Be good.
Scotty M, ladies and gentlemen, doing a good job, right in the back, riding the crest of the wave there with the Indiana Hoosiers. Even convinced the professor to maybe take a second look at what he was thinking about that particular team, who also kind of messed with this man last week as we welcome to the show. One of our favorites here. Guy is Mr. Baseball, has to be getting really excited about the upcoming World Series, has seams on his forehead. That's how deeply into baseball he is.
Yeah.
We welcome Mike Jones to the program. Michael, how are you, my friend?
Great to be with you, Jeff. Very excited about the World Series coming up, and Major League Baseball got what they wanted. Dodger-Yankee World Series, shades of 1981 coming back.
Yeah, I don't think that, they always talk about this, if you're doing sports shows or whatever, and they say, hey, you know what, the network executives are ready to jump out the window there. I can't believe they got this matchup. I mean, if you look at last year with Texas and Arizona, you would have figured nobody would be watching that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Subway Series, while it appealed to a lot of people here in South Florida, was of any great appeal nationally. I mean, most people are thinking, hey, a Subway, I don't want to run into Charles Bronson while he's shooting a couple of people as a vigilante. That's their perception of what Subway Series is all about, getting killed somewhere. Yeah, I don't think it would have had anywhere near the appeal.
Yeah.
And then, now, how much do you buy into this? I asked this of a friend of mine. We had my buddy Dylan Rossi on earlier this morning, and earlier in the show, and he has a ticket that if the Dodgers win the series, on a $100 ticket, he wins $90,000, having coupled them in a 4-component parlay with UConn to win the NCAA title, the Celtics in the NBA, Panthers in the NHL, and now he's sitting on the last one on that ticket for 90 dimes. And you're thinking, what are the signs here with the Dodgers? They only have 2 viable starting pitchers right now, with Flaherty and Yamamoto, and both of those guys have been suspects so far. Mm-hmm. Flaherty, of course, in the postseason has been blown up a couple of times.
Sure.
Yamamoto has been kind of fighting his way off the ropes, like he was at the Olympic Auditorium maybe back in the day at 18th and Grand in Los Angeles, but hasn't really been overwhelming. You're not thinking you're going to get some 8-inning shutout performance out of him if he's lucky, to get past even the 5th inning. So, I mean, how do you go into a World Series with 2 starters and end up the favorite?
To me, I have no idea. But when they've had the relievers go in unison, they've been very good too. Pitchers start out against the Padres with when 8-9 pitchers pitch. My thought on the ticket, which is something that I've had occasion, is you kind of got a hedge, and you got a plus 110 hedge in the series with the Yankees. So I would think it would have to be a normal hedge, or like what I've done too is wait it out. But once you get a 2-0 lead for the Yankees, God forbid, now he's struggling to lay in wood. He's got to take the Yankees in a series play. Betting has changed, and we know this in the last 15 years. They put new series prices out after every individual game just to create action. It helps a hedge better. So I think he's got a lot of options. Me, for one, this is the way I look at this series. Cole against Flaherty, game 1, pitching edge slightly to the Yankees. Weather's going to be nice. I just got back from New York, and it was 80 degrees for 2 days. I can't believe it. I don't know. That's not supposed to be there when they go back to New York. The weather early next week is supposed to get back down to normal early November, late October weather. And I think that if the Yankees can get off to a start, I think Flaherty's a little vulnerable here. I think pitching edge Yankees. I think this. I'm going to go on record and say, game 1 winner wins it all. That's my pick. If the Yankees do game 1, I think it sets them up for a little home cooking. And I like the fact Cole's going to get a second start there and with some success. And I'm with you, Jeff. I don't know about the Dodgers pitching, and we'll see who wins.
Suspect, but the Fernando factor could come into play. I mean, I mentioned it earlier when we were talking to Dylan, a big believer in matters of the occult. The fact that Fernando checked out, I mean, there's nobody more synonymous with the whole euphoria that you get being a Dodger fan than, and I happened to be there in 1981 when Fernando was in the midst of Fernando Mania, creating that, and I don't think they've had anything as great as the franchise's history is. Mm-hmm. Jackie Robinson and all these other things that have gone on in the franchise's history, I don't think they've ever had anything that turned the fans on like Fernando Mania did that
Nothing
early
like
portion of 1981. All right, let's get into some of your plays for the weekend. We want to make some money here on License to Steal. This is Mike Jones, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so let's go to college, which I lost both bets. I think 200 dogs. I was getting 9 points and lost by 100 last week with both Arkansas and Nebraska. So we're going to try to get back on the right track. So I got a perplexing game that just seems to me to be way out of whack. And if you're analyzing a line, you have to say, what is wrong with this line? Missouri's going in Alabama where they were getting 14 early in the week. Their star running back is announced out. These SEC teams are deep at all these positions, and the line is now 17. Has Alabama proven in the last 3 or 4 weeks that they can really take on anybody and have that much success? As a South Carolina fan-based family, we study these games. We watched that game a couple weeks ago when South Carolina had them on the ropes. I think Missouri's one of the better teams in the SEC, still only 1 loss overall. I'm going to take my chances and say that they somehow keep it close and stay within 3 touchdowns and cover the 17.
All right, taking 17 points with Mizzou, which a couple of weeks ago looked like it would be a more challenging matchup for Alabama, although Alabama's slipped backwards and shown themselves to be suspect as well. So taking the points with Mizzou against a vulnerable Alabama team. That's pick number 1.
And I'm going to go with teams that are slipping backwards and talk about Florida State for a minute. Let's go to the big game down here this weekend with Florida State and Miami. So Miami's coming off 3 wins, all 3 very tough games. Struggle with Virginia Tech at home. Go out to Cal and pull the miracle comeback. You might have put Cam Ward in the Heisman race and probably as the lead guy in the Heisman race. And then you had the game last week at Louisville, which was a back and forth, and Miami's defense. The defense has been suspect. Here's my thought. FSU's 1-6. Do they like their coach or not? Probably, I would say his job could be possibly on the line, even coming off an undefeated season the previous year, last year. I look at this game like 21 points in a rivalry game, anything like this. The big game in the state of Florida. I think these FSU kids really don't have much to go. This is their Super Bowl, if we're a bowl game, as you would say. I think they kind of keep it close. I would say a 2-touchdown game. I would take the 21 with Florida State in this spot.
Always interesting, the dynamic in that game. I covered a lot of them and did tons of analysis about Miami FSU games in the past, of course. And, 21 seems like a lot to lay in this position, especially since, as you said, it's been an embarrassment of a season for Florida State. I can't imagine they checked out on Mike Norvell because he's just one of those guys that it's hard not to like. I would think. I mean, it's not like he's some pushover or anything. He's very straight-laced. He reminds me a lot of Dusty May as a basketball coach at FAU, that kind of guy. But, I mean, there was always this talk about how these kids played against each other since Pop Warner, and they really want to show that they're still, the better players or team. So in spite of the circumstances and a horrible season that FSU's having, are they that bad that they lose by 3 touchdowns to Miami? That's the question.
The upside here in this game, which is weird from a crowd standpoint, I talked to a lot of guys who are Miami season ticket holders. We talk a lot about Miami football. This is a game they thought they were worried about in the beginning of the season, not so much now. Is that take away a little of the muster of the game from a fan base side? Are the Florida State fans going to show up? They usually have a 50-50 seating, arrangement there. Now you might only see 10,000 Florida State fans or true diehards that are really going to show up for this game. So it's really a different dynamic than typical. And I would ask you this as I'm trying to think out loud here. I think this number was like 17 the other way about 2 or 3 years ago. So this rivalry has done a complete change. And I just like Florida State only because they're so down. What more than get up to play their big rival in a game like this? So I feel really comfortable about taking 21 here.
All right, sounds good. So we have 2 college plays. Anything else that you're looking at, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to go like the NFL is such a unique bird that you never know what you're going to see, and each week is a different week to week. So let's look at the Dallas situation, blown out 47-6 by Detroit. Going into San Francisco. San Francisco's ruined their seasons a couple of times. San Francisco's not playing all that well. Lost Brandon Ayuk last week. I got a sneaky suspicion Dallas with the 4 is the way to go here. I just think the Cowboys, desperate teams, both teams really down and not really playing what they are, how they've been. I see the regular season version of the Cowboys stepping up here as the way they have been. And I think the Cowboys might even get a victory in all this. I think there's a lot going on in San Francisco right now and the injury bug and what's going on there. So I'm going to take my chances that they right the ship a little bit and Jerry wakes up the boys and the Cowboys hang in there plus the 4.
Makes sense. All right. How can people find your information? How can they get in touch with you and get more of your plays?
For more about the New York Football Giants, it's the Big Gunner podcast on Spotify, and Picks for Profits, PIX4profits.com. And we have the free bet give back if we lose.
All right. Yeah, you can't go wrong there, right? You get your money back,
That's
and
right.
you get to try it all again. It's not like those old promises where well, if we lose this one, you get the rest of the season free.
No, we're not doing that.
Not doing that. All right, Mike. You have a good one, man. Thanks so much
Thanks,
for
Jeff.
being with us here on
Appreciate
License to
the time.
Steal.
You got it. Thank
All
you.
right, I see movement here, and we're going to try to bring in Troy West, who is joining us from Seattle. Troy does a great job for us on the many things that he handicaps. It looks like, Toby, we're looking at the dashboard of his car. Is that the situation right now? Okay, so hopefully he'll figure that out. We'll see a face appear there. In the meantime, I was beaten by a theory the other night with the Celtics and the Knicks. I thought the Knicks were going to come in there just absolutely driven to. Can you really have a statement game in the first game of the regular season on the road after a ring ceremony? But all the signs, in my estimation, were pointing to grabbing 6-7 points with the New York Knicks in that season opener. The ceremony was long and drawn out, and they're all getting the rings, and everybody's a fat cat. They're all in celebration mode, and people in the stands are going nuts. And usually, after something like that, you'll see a team just go out there and be flatter than a Parisian runway model. I mean, just dead flat, my friend, like the sea on a very calm day. And the Knicks, you thought had every incentive in the world with their new configuration to go out and show the Celtics that, hey, we're going to dog you all year long. But it didn't happen that way. They got wiped out. And I thought, well, my long ceremony theory, what was unfounded, was way off base. And then, sure enough, we get another example of it last night. And I didn't really take advantage of it and play into it because we had the ceremony at the Heat game. The Heat are hosting the Orlando Magic. Pretty competitive through the first half. I wasn't overwhelmingly impressed with the Miami Heat and the way they were performing at home in this game. Orlando was a team that's on the come. Last couple of years, they've gotten better and better, and Banchero looks like he's a legitimate star. Certainly, he made whatever statement he had to last night to begin the season that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with. Good young team, good young nucleus, seem to be gelling together. They are only getting 2 points in this game from the Miami Heat on the road. And then it happens. After a competitive first half, I believe it was 58-54, they have like a 45-minute ceremony honoring the great Pat Riley. And I'm thinking, look, I'm all in. Pat Riley's my man. I love this guy. I've been aware of Pat Riley's exploits when he was a college player, of course, as a professional player, and then later on as a legendary coach, became the coach of the Heat, an executive. Always been great to me. Fascinating guy to listen to. I'm all for the ceremony. Take nothing away from that. But here's what we saw: with the long ceremony, usually is not beneficial to the home team. And the Heat come out there and get shellacked in the third quarter and end up losing. I mean, literally, they threw mud in their face after Pat Riley had the court named after him. It's now the Pat Riley Court at the Kaseya Center. Which does anybody know what Kaseya does? Air conditioning? What are they? Life insurance? I think they're a tech company. But anyway, irrelevant. The point being that anytime you see that there's going to be a long ceremony, a retirement, a jersey going up in the rafters, especially if it takes place at halftime, hammer the team that is the road team in the third quarter of the game, and ultimately you could make a score betting them to win the game outright, which was the case last night. But we were a day late to the elongated ceremony theory coming in and cashing for us. All right, I see a face there now in front of the dashboard. This is almost like watching some Crime Stopper show, but we do have a face
No
to
lie.
associate with Troy West. Troy, how are you? Joins us here on the program on License to Steal.
Doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Beautiful 60-degree day here in Seattle. It's rare for late October. So, doing great. Getting excited for this Thursday night football matchup. I think it's going to be a good one. Sounds like Puka and Cooper Cup are going to be a go tonight. So, it's going to be a great game tonight in LA.
Last I saw, Rams were getting 3 as a home dog against the Minnesota Vikings, who were coming off their lone loss of the season, albeit one that could have gone either way. Came down to the final seconds. Detroit prevails by a couple of points. No disgrace in losing to Detroit after rattling off the 5 straight wins. What do you make of this one? Which side are you going with?
Well, originally I was all over the Vikings. I just was with the Cooper Cup trade talks. I thought Puka was going to be out. I'm really curious where the Rams are headed. I mean, I don't necessarily think their season's completely over, especially the way the NFC West has been. You know, you got the Seahawks at 4-3, you got the 49ers at 3-4. The Cardinals are kind of just there. The Rams really aren't out of it, but here they are talking about trading Cooper Cup. Puka's been out for a long time. Both those guys will play tonight. So the line's dropped to 2.5 now. I still lean Minnesota. I think they're the better team. I think they're a legitimate 5-1 team. They're well coached, both sides of the football. I still lean the Vikings, but it is interesting because the Rams are right in the hunt.
All right, is that going to be one of your plays tonight? Taking
No,
Minnesota, or
no,
just
no, no, not
just
official. Just giving the viewers a little bit of a taste of this game tonight. Not official, not official. No money on this game for me tonight.
all right? What do you want to put on the board for us this week?
Tomorrow night, I'm going into a Coliseum. USC is -14 at home against Rutgers. USC has lost back-to-back heartbreaking games. They lose the game at home against Penn State in overtime. They lose last week to Maryland. They are going to be hungry and pissed off to get a Rutgers team that is not playing good football. Rutgers has been horrendous as of late, losing to UCLA at home last week. The week before that, they lose to Northwestern. Now they've got to fly New York into the Coliseum. I like USC in a big, big way. Give me the Trojans 42-20 on Friday night.
All right, laying double digits there with the USC Trojans against a Rutgers team that has to travel across the country. And you have to figure, we talked about this on another show. You're a kid that's playing in Piscataway, New Jersey, which is second only to Newark in terms of being a dump in New Jersey. A town, maybe Patterson is another one you wouldn't want to go to. Home of Reuben Hurricane Carter and other boxers, Kendall Holt, another guy that hailed from there. But they talk about the mean streets. Now you're in La La Land. It has to be a little bit disturbing and somewhat of a distraction to your overall ability to concentrate on going out there and beating the Trojans. So maybe the travel factor there looms even larger than it would normally be, where you recorded like 3 points or whatever for being on the road. All right, so you like USC. Now you're going to stick with a team that put a dagger right in your back last week. I like that about you, Troy West. You're not afraid to go ahead and show some loyalty, but I know you're looking at Cal as one of your picks this week.
Yeah, I like Cal. They're back at home. They're a 10-point favorite again. They lose last week to NC State at home. This is still a good Cal football team. They're well coached. They're good on both sides of the ball. They got good quarterback play. They just keep stumbling, and I get it. Why do you go back to them? But they're playing an Oregon State team that has been horrendous this year. They have no quarterback play. They really have no good coaching going on there in Corvallis. So give me Cal -10 at home. Oregon State's a bad football team. They lost to Nevada last week. Week before that, they snuck by Colorado State in overtime. I like Cal in a big way to bounce back. Give me Cal 42-17. I love this game this weekend.
All right, sounds good. Going back to your roots there with California, laying 10 in this contest, thinking it's going to be blowout city. And you're in accord with Mike Jones, who just was all over the Dallas Cowboys. You're looking at San Francisco, and people keep wanting to make them into something that maybe right now they are not, which is real title contenders. I mean, when you take these guys, Debo Samuel with pneumonia, McCaffrey, who hasn't been able to line up and play so far this year, and you start taking these guys out of the lineup, and then you look at what Brock Purdy is doing. He's starting to look like Mr. Irrelevant. So up against it, Ayuk out for the season now, a real tough spot, and yet people see San Francisco 49ers, they start sending it in, but I know you like Dallas in this spot as well.
Yeah, I don't like it as much as I did. And the reason why is I saw the injury report come out for Dallas, and Micah Parsons I thought would be a full go. He is still questionable. Deron Bland, a lot of people forget who that is, the star cornerback from last year that broke the record for pick sixes. He was supposed to be a full go. He's questionable now. So I still like it a lot still, but it wasn't I love it play. I thought Dallas was going to be fully healthy on defense. They're not. But still, give me the Cowboys. Like you said, 49ers, a lot going on there. They're banged up on both sides of the ball. The offensive line hasn't been as good. The running game hasn't been as good. Take out Ayuk. If Debo Samuel goes, at what percentage will he go? I like Dallas to cover. This game's probably decided by 3 points either way. I'd take 4.5 all day long.
All right. I hope you can go back and catch the beginning of the show. We had the great Dylan Rossi on, the man behind the 2 tickets that we've been talking about. How big of a following does he have now in Seattle?
Oh, it's growing. Yeah. We've been showing people the tickets, and people are rooting on the Dodgers. We've actually got a lot of Dodger fans out here, believe it or not. Some of my good buddies are big Dodger fans, so when we initially saw the ticket, these guys were ecstatic. And this was what back in late August, early September, so there was still a long ways to go, and here we are. So we'll be rooting for Dylan without a doubt. And I like the Dodgers. I like the Dodgers in the World Series. We talked about it Wednesday. I just think they have the better bullpen, the better hitting. Starting pitching depth probably goes to the Yankees, but I just still think the Dodgers are the better baseball team here.
And I know when we discussed this, and you're not a believer in my Fernando theory and how much influence that's going to have on the series. You're more Bill James, inclined to do a little baseball abstract and go with the numerology. But I can't completely discount that. There was some kind of magic there with this Dodger organization and the passing of Fernando Valenzuela. I'm going to put that in my factors to consider when it comes to handicapping.
I agree.
The World
They
Series.
had a guy out here. I don't know if you know the name, Defo. He's a West Coast broadcaster, Petros Papadakis.
Yes, I do know. Yeah.
Yes. He was on the radio out here, and he's from L.A. He's a USC Trojan, former running back, and he said it's a big deal. He said it's the guy that really created that Hispanic culture fan base for the Dodgers, which is by far the biggest fan base, Hispanic fan base in baseball, and. He's a season ticket holder himself. He said it's one of the coolest things ever to see a Hispanic guy, give a high five to the largest attorney in LA during these games, right? So you get such a great divide in LA. So I think they'll be hungry. Your theory makes sense. So go Dodgers.
The ultimate intangible in this series. I don't think you can overlook it. I really don't. All right, Troy, how can people get involved with your services and all the different things you do? Because, you have a proven track record that is beyond the scope of anybody's wildest imagination, really killing it all year long in a variety of sports.
I appreciate it, Defo. Yeah, get to the Instagram. It's Troy West. The website is troywins.com. We've got a great special going on right now. 7 days for $7. There's no upsells there. That's just to get you in the door. No upsells. Everybody gets the same picks. We cover everything: golf, UFC, college basketball's around the corner. We've got the NBA going on now, NHL. We cover it all. It's troywins.com.
All right. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk again very soon, and good luck with your plays as Troy West favoring USC, Cal, and the Cowboys in that game against the 49ers. Thanks so much for being with us. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Defo.
All right, that's Troy West. I'm going to bring Toby back in here, our fine, outstanding producer, and just get his thoughts on a couple of things here real quickly as we close out the show. All right, what do you think? Are you a believer in matters of the occult, you young guys? Do you think that Fernando Valenzuela's passing has in any way, any scope of influence on the World Series? I know it sounds ridiculous, but what do you think? Are you willing to overlook that completely and just go with the numbers?
It's funny you've been talking about it this whole time, because I actually brought that up on my show a couple hours ago, was the fact that he was part of that. He was part of that. Can you hear me?
Yes. I was just saying that great minds think alike.
No, I thought you were saying, I don't know. I thought I was still muted or something. No,
nice.
But I mean, just the fact that he was part of that 1981 World Series team, and these teams haven't matched up in the World Series since then, it just seems like too much of a coincidence there. Former baseball player myself, I'm just always a superstitious person, so that part of me is just, it's still there, and I don't know if you were the same way, but
very much so.
I think that's definitely going to play, and if the Dodgers win, that's what I'm going to be attributing it to, because I feel like these teams are just so even that, I mean, it could go either way, and I feel like that's just the perfect narrative for the Dodgers to ride to the World Series.
I mean, if you're Wade Boggs, you're eating chicken before every game. If you're crossing the foul line, coming off the mound, you don't want to rub the chalk at all. You're stepping over that. Ton of superstitions in Major League Baseball, and I believe that this will be one of those outside factors. It's just a sign from the gods of gambling that the Dodgers are very much in play here, and you could tell that from the line. But I think the Yankees are no slouch. What do you think about Stanton? I mean, He's been so crucial to the Yankees so far in their playoff series. He does get in these zones. I don't understand why they don't just keep throwing him breaking pitches away, because he looks like a contortionist going after some of those. The last one that I saw him hit for the home run, a big home run, his last homer in the series, the championship series. I mean, that was a meatball straight off the counter of Cafe Monterano. That was a hanging breaking pitch, maybe brought on by Stanton putting so much pressure on these pitchers that he's forcing mistakes. But how is he not being fed a steady diet of outside breaking balls? I want to see everything this guy is thrown to, to be in the dirt. And yet They're throwing him fastballs, and they're letting him continue. If he continues to be hot, I think that gives the Yankees the balance they need to counteract the high-powered offense of the Dodgers.
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting too because Stanton's been so good for the Yankees the entire postseason. He's been so good for them the entire season. When they went through that horrible stretch in the summer, Stanton was noticeably absent from the lineup.
Yeah.
And when he went back into it, you saw that kind of turnaround that they had there in the second half. He's from the LA area, and last time he played there, I mean, if you remember, he won the All-Star Game MVP there when it was hosted at Dodger Stadium a couple of years ago. So I expect him to have a big series. And I don't know, I'd feed him outside sliders the whole entire AB. A lot of these Dodgers pitchers don't have the greatest chase rate in the world, though. So it'll be really interesting. These guys are going to go after Stanton, and I don't know if it's going to go very well for him.
All right. What do you think? It sounds like you're leaning towards the Dodgers in a series.
I think I am. The Yankee fan in me really wants to say the Yankees. I'll be at Game 3, so I'm going to be pulling for the Yankees the whole way. But yeah, I got the good news the other day. But we're excited to go up. I'll be there with my family, so that'll be a really cool experience. And we're excited. We hope that the Yankees can at least, hopefully have a win there and won't be going down 3-0 or something after that game. But I think this one goes to 7. I think that's what the MLB wants, and that's what they're going to get.
All right, sounds good. Going to be very exciting. We thank all of our people for joining us here on the show, usual suspects, and also special thanks to Dylan Rossi for being with us. I really did think we were going to have to go with some kind of silhouette of his face and the voice shredder. I don't know if AJ's installed a voice shredder yet, because, I mean, really, wouldn't you have to protect any kind of gambling information where a guy's sitting on a score, even more so than medical records? You wouldn't want to go out publicly. So that was very nice of him to do that for us and help us live vicariously through the thrill of having a ticket that is that live that you have to discuss whether or not you want to just collect 50,000 and opt out on the deal. That would be great. Toby, you have a good one. We'll look forward. When's your next baseball show on?
I'm going to try to do one Monday night after the game on the road. We'll see what the logistics look like for that. But if not, probably Thursday will be the next one.
Okay, and Len Elmore, a gentleman named Len Elmore, who was an outstanding basketball player, had a 10-year NBA career, also was an all-ACC player, was in some classic games, then became an analyst on TV for college and pro basketball, various networks, worked with CBS, Fox, ESPN, extremely intelligent guy, Harvard graduate, Harvard law graduate, practicing attorney, very much involved in a lot of things on these various committees that try to figure out what the hell is wrong with college athletics. He's our special guest on Conversations. You can see that on the Bleacher Brothers Network as well. And next week, we'll get into some boxing. Good buddy of mine for a long, long time. Tremendous background in the sport. Now the COO of Top Rank Boxing, Brad Jacobs, going to join us on Conversations next Tuesday at 4. For everybody connected with the program, Toby, great job. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hoping all your bets turn out to be profitable, and we'll join you next time with the cast of characters on License to Steal right here on the Bleacher Brothers Network.